Hello, and thank you for joining me for this demo of Acumatica ERP. A little bit about myself. My name is Ansel Slagle, and I have been working with various ERP systems for a little over 15 years now. I've worked with clients from many different industries, including medical manufacturing, distribution of holiday decorations, and even playground equipment installation. I've learned a lot from all of my clients, and I'm looking forward to learning more from you. Taking a look at today's agenda, we will be looking at Acumatica and the overview of navigation and going through the user experience, looking at the various forms and how to get around in the system. After we've gone through that, we will go through the order to invoice, where we will put in a sales order and process it through, and then look at the mobile device. That is a free mobile device, mobile app that you can use with Acumatica, logs directly in, and are able to view multiple pieces of data and information, even on the go. We're also going to take a look at workflows, which consist of approvals. So you can see that there's a hierarchy of approvals that can be on various different forms. We're going to look at the one around purchase order approvals. And then we're going to look at the three different ways of using reporting in Acumatica, and then a little bit of a closing to tell you what we looked at. Moving into Acumatica, I would like to point out that Acumatica is a browser-based ERP that was built from the ground up in the cloud. It does support many different types of browsers, or different browsers are supported. Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome are examples of those browsers that are supported. It is a role-based business management system, and data can be accessed from anywhere on any device. As you'll see today, using a desktop computer, you could also use a tablet or also a smartphone, which we will also demo as well. The solution is easily configured without the need for developers, and if customization is required, it can be done cost effectively as possible. We do have a common theme of low code, no code to try to get to your solution for your business. Everything you're going to see today is out of the box functionality with no customizations or third-party products. Okay, with that, we'll get into the demo here. So over on the side, you're going to see workspaces. So in these workspaces, as you click into them, this is going to be what the users will see and what they will use to work. Now, I am set up as admin, as a system admin right now, which means I can see everything. Now I can configure my screen so we have a little bit less and a little less busy, but Acumatica is set up as a role-based system. So that means that the users will be given roles, and those roles will restrict the form screens and data that they can see. So again, we'll be looking at this from my standpoint as admin, so there will be a lot of information, or all the information, but we'll try to log in as another user, and you can kind of see what their view looks like as well. The workspaces are configurable, so as you can see here, I can show all, show less, I can change what's on the screen. You can also make changes to these tiles up at the top, which are typically things that you're going to do or actions you're going to perform. You could even change the name of them. So when you're transitioning from one ERP system to another, sometimes keeping naming convention the same helps with that transition. Or maybe it's something that just makes more sense to your team than how it's being named in Acumatica. So you can just change the name of that, and then maybe this flow will look a little bit better for you on those tiles. Another piece to point out on the workspace is the star here on the side. What the star does is I can just click the star, and then that's going to add that to my favorites. So now over on my favorites, this is a condensed version of the menus that you want to get to. Now this is usually what you're going to use throughout the day. So you can use favorites to just kind of minimize how much you have to go around. Because if you go to favorites only, then you're going to just see what you're working on for the day. As you can see, you can also add these tiles to your favorites and any of the other screens, dashboards that you may go through throughout the day. Okay. Back on the dashboard area, see here, when I click the Acumatica, it goes to a dashboard. Now that is user specific. So you can have your home page or the page that this opens up to be different per user. And you'll see that when I log in as another user for another process we're going to go through in just a little bit. The next topic I would like to talk about is the universal search that's up in this area. Now, a lot of ERP systems do have a search function to try to find information. Usually it's just the forms that you need to get to, but this search function that's up at the top is a little bit more powerful than that. So let me give you an example. If I type in 1099, right, that gives me the menu items just like any other ERP system might, and that's going to give me just how to get to close 99 year, and that's just a form that I'm going to go to. But because 1099s, I give that example because you don't do that as often as other processes, so you may forget how to do it. So the other thing that you can go into are the help topics. So if I go into the 1099 and go over to the 1099 help topics tab, and what that's going to do is pull up information that helps me do my job. So to modify the branch configuration for 1099 reports or the forms, there's just other information. Now there's also transaction and profiles on here. So anything in the transactions or customer records, master data that might have 1099 in the information, you're going to see that pull up here as well. And same thing for files, anything 1099 for files. Another example we might use for this would be if I were looking up a customer. Instead of going all the way over to the customers and looking up their information, maybe I don't want to just go to the customer and then go through each screen. I could come here and look at the transaction and profiles tab in the universal search, and I would see, oh, here are some sales orders or payments or other information. So it's just another way to get to that data that you can sort to. Or it might be files. Here I have the credit application for Alta Ace. Another example I like with universal search is, let's say that somebody gives you a phone call and it's kind of hard to hear. They haven't gone through the tunnel yet, but maybe it's just not great reception. But the only thing you caught out of it was they said 5810. You're like, okay, what are they talking about 5810? So I can go over to transactions and profiles and maybe just listening and trying through context clues. You're like 5810. Oh, yeah. They're calling on this. It's this sales order, so I can drill into it from here and go down into the details of that. Again, this universal search is really good for getting you to the information that you need as quickly as possible so you can move on to your next task and have that information right at your fingertips. Okay, on the dashboards, we do have information here that you can drill down into. So you can see that I've got all this, but there's data behind that. So you can just kind of click on it. So orders to ship, I can go into that. That's going to pop open further information about orders to ship. I can also look at other dashboards. So I'll go over here to the dashboards workspace, show all. You can see there are a lot of different dashboards. One here, the AP clerk. So we can go look at it. What you'll see here is the tiles that you've got at the top. They do have color coding. So I've got green. Hey, I'm feeling pretty good. My day's looking pretty nice. But I've got a couple things here. It's yellow. So, okay, well, I can get to that. But what are these red things, right? You want to look at those first. So they just really jump out at you and let you know this is what you need to work on, what's top priority. So it just brings your work day to your right to your face, right to your eyes. You also get to see the trends. You can see other pieces of data here as well. Again, back on the dashboard workspace, a lot of different dashboards for different areas that are divided out here that are pre-configured. But even when you go into one of the standard ones, you can drill down and change those, add different elements to this. For instance, I can go into add new widget, and you can see that I can add more charts, data tables, pivot tables, which we'll talk a little bit about pivot tables later. We can add those and configure this how you want. Okay. The other thing you can do on these dashboards is that you can go in and you can do, let's say we take our customer Alta Ace again. Then what we're going to do is narrow our data down so that we're only looking at just that customer. So this is a pretty powerful tool because now we can look at just this data for this customer and look at their sales order trends. And then we can go back and just delete out that information. And now we can see it for everything again. Okay, so we're going to drill into these open opportunities and take a look at this. So we've got a lot of data here. Another feature of Acumatica are these conditional fields. So based on the conditions that we specify, we can have this really come to right to our forefront of knowing, hey, this needs attention, right? We need to look at this. Well, if I want to drill into this further, I can click over on my side panel on opportunities from the grid, And what that's going to do is open up the specific details of the record that I have highlighted. Now what's nice with this is now I can actually make changes right here on the fly. So I'm in my grid, I still see everything, but now I've got the details of that. Well, if I want to go down and look at this other one for new computers, I click on that one, you can see that it refreshes over on the side view as well. And do the same with the customer view. This gives me a dashboard view. Kind of shows you the same fields we were seeing a little bit earlier, but now I can see those for the specific customer. Just another way to slice and dice the data. Again, gets it to you nice and quick. If I am looking at this opportunity on the opportunity screen, one thing I might want to do is make this my main focus. So you can just expand this out, work with this record until you're done with it, expand it back down, hide this to the side, and continue on with my work. Okay. Okay, let's go over to bills and adjustments. Okay, so in here we're going to work with quick filters. Now I've got a few quick filters up here. And if I click on those are going to go ahead and filter my data down. But if I want to create one to add to that list, then I can go here. I can add open as a status, and balance, we're going to go something larger. So let's just say that it's greater than or equal to 100K. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this narrows my list down to 17 records. And then let's say that's something that I want to look at regularly. So this is part of my job, part of my work. I need to look at this balance. And instead of maybe remembering, and I know this is just 2 columns this time, but let's say you had 5 or 6 columns that you're typically filtering on, then you could filter those columns and then you can go over here and save it. And then it just makes it easier to come back in the future because now you just click on the tab and it'll filter your data as things are changing and as time goes on. So we're going to just name this one Open AP greater than 100K. I'll put the $sign in there too. Smaller k. Which doesn't matter. Not case sensitive. You can see it's all caps here anyway. So I can go here, and as you can see, go through. You can see that's 25 records. That's 27 records. 17 records. So now I can see the different levels of my Open AP. Okay. Now Acumatica does support multi-company and multi-currency, so that does create your do tos and do froms across the companies. But as your company's growing, it means that you could add more companies to the system. You could add more branches if you need to. You can also add additional currency as you're expanding. Okay, next we're going to move into order to invoice. So we're going to go put in a sales order. But before we do, I just want to go and show you a sales order. Okay, we're going to go into this sales order here. Just going to click into it from the grid to go to the record, which is another direction you can go. I could go from the side panel, but I can also just click on the record, and that will open it up. One thing to note on this, as well as other records, we do have notes, activities, and files. So for notes, things like do not use packing peanuts. You can put notes related to this sales order. Other records also have notes as well. Activities, you can add activities to this, like a phone call from that need a follow-up, a phone call, maybe some specific activity for this sales order. Files, we could also upload things like shipping documentation or installation files or the customer's PO. There's various things you could upload as a file that's specific to this record. Okay, so throughout this demo, we'll kind of see these on other things. So purchase orders, sales orders, they would all have the same thing on them. The layout of the sales order is that there's a header at the top. There are lines at the bottom. And as part of the lines at the bottom, there is a column configurator. This allows you to add and remove columns or fields, well, columns and fields as you want. So one of the things might be that, let's say like free items. So maybe you don't have free items. So we'll just grab that, move it over, and now in available columns, it's no longer in our selected columns. So it's moved it out of this grid. Okay. The other thing you can do is actually just grab and move. So if I want warehouse over here, or I want unit of measure over here, I can move these around. Maybe I want the unit of measure after the quantity, the warehouse down here. Moving those around just makes it a little bit easier to work with. Okay. So next we're going to go ahead and create a new sales order. So just click on new. Now we're going to use a smart search to look for Alta Ace. Alta Ace is the customer here. When we add that information, you'll see that the defaults come in from the customer record. So that all comes into the header. So next what we'll want to do is add some items. There is an add items, which gives you an inventory lookup. This is all records, everything, all the items, right? And then you get your quantity available, your quantity on hand, which is nice for looking stuff up. But let's say, again, you get a phone call from the customer and they're saying, hey, I bought something from you back in, let's move this over to sold cents. Bought something from you back in July. Maybe June. Sure, it's been a while. They don't know. So we're going to put in, actually put June in. There we go, June 12th. I don't know, somewhere back then. So I can put in sold cents. That's going to give me a list of the items that this customer has purchased since that time. So you can see what they purchased, and you can just select the ones that you want and do add and close, and that'll add the line. I'm not going to add it that way this time. Another way to add is add a row. So if I add a row to this and go over here, going to put in a Acer laptop as my item. Again, item and item defaults are going to come in. Quantity, we'll put 1 in. Now you'll see that my unit price is $500 for 1. You can put in price breaks. So let's just play around with that and see. So if I put in 4, you can see that my unit price drops down to $475. Okay, so I'm going to set up a structure for that, and as you have volume pricing, you can go in and change your quantity, and it's going to update that on the fly. The other thing to note is down here at the bottom, as I put in this information, I do have a on hand and available. Really handy, especially if you're taking a phone order, you're putting in the order as you go, and you can kind of get an idea, hey, are we going to make the ship date or date requested for this customer? So it gives you a little bit more confidence while you're on the phone. They do have the ability to export these to Excel from here, but also to note, you can load records from a file. So if I had a file that I wanted to upload, so maybe you have a lot of lines on a sales order and you need to import those, and instead of sitting here putting them in by hand, then you could take a file and upload those. Saves you a lot of keystrokes. Okay, so next what I want to move on to is shipping. So we're going to go over to the shipping tab, go to shop for rates, refresh the rates. Let's come back up. Let's see, what do we want? Let's try UPS ground. Okay, looks like we're going to have to refresh our values here, but that's okay. Down at the bottom, I get a medium box, and this is going to help those in the warehouse know, hey, this is what this is rated for. This is what to put it in. Grab this off the shelf, put the product in there, and let's get it shipped out the door. So click OK. What that's going to do is bring that information back over. It's going to populate over on my totals. There it comes. Over on my totals, I'm going to get the freight cost added in. Okay. And the other thing I want to point out, you can do prepayments. So we've got a payments tab here. So we could add prepayments as well to this, but a lot of information we can add to and work with. Another piece I would look at, there is a grid and form. So the grid's nice, but on the form now you can see all this information kind of in one place. This is good for drilling into the data and into the information. This is good for looking at the whole order at one time. All right, now we are going to, we're going to save. That's what we're going to do first. Okay, so now we'll go back to the screen. for a second. Okay, so we've placed our order, put the order in. Now it's going to head over to our shipping clerk. So let's take a look at our shipping clerk's dashboard. Okay, so in their list, they have an orders to ship. So we got the order that we just entered. So I'll go click into it. Okay. Now there is a quick process. I'm just going to mention it today and not actually demo that, but the quick process, the quick process does allow you to do all the steps that I'm about to do, but just in one foul swoop. So you can use that. So there are some, I'll call them shortcuts to what I'm going to show you. So there are longer and shorter ways to do things, but we're just going to demo and go through one way, not to be too confusing today. So I'm going to create a shipment and click OK. And that's going to create the shipment. And once that gets created, then I can print a pick list. And whenever I print the pick list out, then I could use that free mobile that I was telling you about earlier, free mobile device app that you can download. And then you could use that pick list to help with the users on the floor, and they can confirm your shipment, do your picking, packing, and see further information. Right now, we're going to skip over doing a pick list, and we're just going to confirm the shipment. You can see here, this is in green and out here. That tells you that's the next step that's coming up. But I'm just going to click on it here in the processing. Okay, and that will confirm the shipment. Okay, and then once that happens, we're going to go look over here, and I have a tracking number that has now shown up. Okay, so again, this is integrated. This is not a third party. This is out of the box. And here I get my tracking information. Okay, so that's my label that I can then print out. And then I can go here, click on this. And again, this gives me more information. This one looks a little bit better. Get a label on this one. I have to go back and look to see what why this label doesn't. That's okay. Okay. So once we've got that shipped and we have our tracking information, then we can prepare the invoice, because we all like to get paid. All right. Now, your invoice, your packing slip, all those documents you could send, you could email, you could print them. Not showing that in this, kind of a standard thing to anybody and everybody can do. So those can be sent off to a printer. Some of the stuff like prepare invoice could also be set up to run on a routine in the background as well. So there are a few of these things that we could automate as well. So here you can see, got the invoice, so I could release, send that off, and now it moves on to somebody else's bucket, right, that they can deal with. Okay. So now let's move into the mobile. Okay. Get that screen up here. There it is. Minimize the screen. Seems to have disconnected, so let's reconnect it again. Here we go. Minimize this. Okay, so on a phone, doing this on my phone, we can log into Acumatica. Now, when I logged in just now, I actually used my thumbprint. If you've got face recognition, then it's going to use the face recognition. But you can sign in with the username and password and then tell it to enable fingerprint and use some of your phone functionality as well with Acumatica. So once this gets loaded, you can see we've got KPIs at the top, which we can add more, but you can see I've got open cases. Recently visited. So this is a cool thing to see because we were just on sales order 583. And now we see that in here as well, right? So I can go across. You can see these are things that we've just gone into recently. I do have workspaces. So time and expense, which we're going to go into in a minute. Warehouse management, I was telling you about, we need to pick, pack, and ship. Receive, put away, scan, issue scan. You can kind of see that on there. And then we have dashboards. So I'm just going to go into the sales manager dashboard here so we can take a look at it. And again, all the dashboards are configurable, but here I can see this. One thing you can do is turn your phone to the side, and now you get a little bit different view. So maybe you got this chart looks a little bit better sideways than it does so in landscape versus portrait. So I can scroll down, look at my data, look at my information, turn that back this way. Okay. So I've got my dashboards. There is a favorite, so I don't have any favorites in here. The favorites here, though, are not the same favorites as the ones that you have on the desktop version. We can add some favorites to get to your either records or to dashboards, etc. So next what we want to do is go into time and expense. And we want to enter an expense receipt. So first I'll go into the expense receipts. You can just kind of take a look at these. That'll pull up the records that are there, and then I have a plus button, so I can go on here, and I can say create new. And once this creates the new record, then what I'm going to do is put in a description. Now what I can do is use the voice to text on your phone to put in a description. So then that way I don't have to type it. Maybe you're, well, not driving, don't want to drive and text or even talk to text when you're driving, but you can just talk into it. So grabbed gas from the gas station, right? Something like that. And messed that one up. We'll just take out this other gas from the gas station. There. And we'll call it business travel. Okay, so we'll just put this in, put in an amount, 83.14. Whatever it was. Okay, we're going to save it. And then if I go into that record, while I was there, actually just click on this and say I want to grab my receipt. Because I want to be done with this. I don't want to have to scan it somewhere else and then go back to the office and enter the information, right? So I can have it that way. But that was a lot of typing. And even though I had the convenience of talking to it to enter the information, I would prefer to have this get captured and read. So we're going to take a picture of this receipt. This is a different one. And this would speed up your process quite a bit because now I'm out, I get my receipt, and it gives me, oh hey, now I got my description, my date, and my amount. So I had to do a lot less typing. So yep, went to Jimmy John's, and there's my date, there's my expense item. We're going to put that in as a meal, and it's got my amount in it. Perfect. And it's attached. So a lot less steps on that one in order to get that information entered. So now what you would do is go into time and expense, and then let me show you how quick that went in. So there's no real syncing, there's no waiting. I just put that information in. I head back over to Acumatica, and right here's my Jimmy John's that I had put in and then grabbed gas from the gas station. And again, click into this. I've got my notes, activities, and files. Of course, in my files here I have my uploaded receipt. So I can see all of my expenses. Super quick, super simple, just uploads directly from the mobile. Okay. Right, so that is the mobile device. Next, what we want to get into are the workflows and approvals. Okay. I'm going to go to the assignment and approvals map, again using the universal search. Find where I need to go. You can see there are already a lot of approval maps that are in here, various things like the time card, case assignments. So there's a lot of different places and ways that you can use this, but the one that we're going to work on today is the PO two-step approval. Okay, so going to the PO two-step approval, you can see here on the screen that under the rules, we've got two rules that are set up. One is the approved by accountant, that's for Layla, and two rules there are that it's not on hold and the approval work group ID is empty. The next one is the same thing for Maxwell. The only difference here is that the order total is greater than 5,000. So it's going to have to be a bigger PO for that one for Maxwell to have to deal with that, right? So that's going to be when the larger ones go in, hey, we need the executive approval, large PO, right? So this is the configuration on that, but just want to show it so that you can see, and I didn't make any changes, so we're going to leave that. Just wanted you to see the setup of how that is before we put in a PO and go through the approval. Okay, so before I put in the PO, let's take a look at the Purchasing Manager dashboard. And I just want to show you that on the Purchasing Manager's dashboard, well, minus this, don't look at that, they're pretty happy because this is all green. Okay, so all green here, no orders pending approval, so pretty happy, get a pretty easy day, just not that part. So the next thing I want to do is log out and log in as a different user. So I'm going to go in as Wiley. Log back in here. You can see now I'm Regina Wiley. When I opened up my home page, if you notice that was different, was not the dashboard. Instead, it was the purchase orders because Regina's, that's what she's going to do. Log in. First thing I want to do, sit down, look at the purchase orders, and start putting purchase orders in. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go ahead and make a new purchase order. And we're going to take the top. I could search for this. I could use Smart Search to fill it in, but I'm just going to take the top one here at the top. And we're going to add. Again, I've got the add items. I've got notes, activities, files, all this stuff. Same thing on purchase orders as kind of what you saw on the sales order. So keeps things consistent. Keeps it consistent. Okay, so let's put in a Acer laptop. And we're going to do a quantity of 1 for this, and we're going to save. Okay, before I save, you can see it says new. I save, in comes the PO number. It's on hold. I remove hold. What do I get? Pending approval. So now I'm waiting on somebody to approve this. Okay, so I'm going to log back out of Regina. I'm going to log in as admin. Again, home page comes back up, and it's on this dashboard. Again, you can change it. But now I'm going to go back to my Purchasing Manager dashboard. And we're going to just refresh this. And you can see that my orders pending approval is 1. It's yellow, so it's, not super urgent. But when we get into it, I do have a conditional formatting that's today or older that turns this yellow. So I would know if I've got a list of things to approve, kind of what's at the top of the list. Hey, there's a date, here's when it's promised on. And you could put those conditional formats in. So from here, I could either click on the purchase order to go in, or I can actually use my side panel, once again, just to pull this purchase order up. And from here, I can approve it, reject it, add notes, require that there's notes, or not have notes at all. So in this case, what I want to do is just kind of look at this. So if I want to expand it and then look into it, you can see that there's a pending approval on the approvals from Layla. And again, this is only $250. So if it was over $5,000, then Maxwell would be on this list as well. This gives you kind of the history and also, hey, what am I waiting on? What's left to do? And there's my pending approval. Okay, moving on to our last topic would be reporting. Okay. All right, so in Acumatica, you've got 3 report tools. You have a finance report writer or analytical report manager, ARM. For most who have used financial reports, that's kind of set up the same way. We'll take a look at it, but it is a row set style configuration. So we'll take a look at that just so you can see what it looks like. There is also standard reports from Report Designer. So this one is similar to Crystal Reports. So anybody who has a background working with Crystal Reports, it will look kind of like that for editing standard reports. And then we have the generic inquiry writer. That is a SQL-driven query writer. So if you're familiar with using SQL, this is more of a user interface version of writing a SQL query to pull in the data from the database. Okay. So let's take a look at that. All right, so if I go to in finance, profit and loss, P&L, then on this, there's an edit report button. Edit report is going to open up. and we're going to see the row set and column set. And I won't go too far into the details of this. Just want to show you, because again, if you're familiar with this, you've kind of seen this set up before, but there's a row set and a column set. So you can go in and make changes to how these are configured. And again, where those come across, you will see it in your report. So if we run the report based on how it's already configured, you'll see that this looks like a P&L statement. Now, what is, again, adding to the standard that it's a P&L statement, you now have this group button. In the group button, I can see there's a consolidated report, but I can also, again, mentioning the multi-company, multi-currency functionality or multi-branch, I can also drill down into the branches. So now I have a P&L for the branch just by clicking here. So I've already set up my format in the background, but now I can come here, do a consolidated report. Here's everybody, everything. And here it is by Services East Branch. Now I've got different information here. And then I can also click into this. So with the sales revenue, if I wanted to go further, I can click on that, and that's going to drill down into the specific account, sub-accounts, so on and so forth. So you do have more functionality as you drill down and drill into these reports. Okay. So that's the financial report. The standard reports, let me go over to the, pull up a different sales order details by inventory. So again, using the universal search at the top, I can navigate to my report. Not going to go into the edit report and pull up the report writer. Again, if you're familiar with Crystal reports, it's going to look something similar to that. But what I can do if I run this report, I'm just going to run it as is. You can see the sales order details by inventory item. Again, I have the group button, but now I can click into, let's say this, the Acer computer, go into this information and see who it was sold to, when, where, how much, etc., etc. And so you do have the group, and same thing, also the drill down. So I can click on any of these and get to further information. All right, and then the last one is the generic inquiry. So we're just going to go to generic inquiry, which is a very powerful tool, but we'll give you a little taste of it. In here, we're going to look up the invoiced type. There we go. And select invoice items. Okay. So in here, you can see you can specify your data source relations, parameters, conditions, grouping, sort order, result, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Again, similar terminology for anyone that's used SQL. Use that to build your queries, and then we will go into the inquiry and see what the results set is. So this will give you the results. You can see it's just like any of the other forms here. I can do some of my quick filters and save those at the top. And I can use these. I can use these generic inquiries in a lot of different places throughout Acumatica. Now, what we're about to do is make a change to or look at pivot tables. Okay. Let's see. Go into the pivot table. And what I want to do on this pivot table is I'm going to add state. So I'm just going to grab it from the fields that are available. I'm going to put it over into filters. Just drag, drop. And then I need to save this. That will light up my view pivot button. And we'll have that load. And then once that gets loaded, I'm going to drag the state filter over to the left-hand side and add that to the pivot table that I've created. Okay. It's a lot of data. There we go. Once that loads, we'll grab this, move it to the end, make sure I get the right spot. And once that's loaded up, you'll see that it will expand this pivot table. And then we will have a collapse at the bottom. So you see here now I've got the state is in here as well. So I can collapse that. Now I can see a nice summarized view. So now by all states, it's all collapsed down or expanded back out and look at everything that's there. Okay. And again, this is something that we can use. So back on our customer view, we've got some, uh, the widget we can put in for the pivot table. So now you can add things like the pivot table to your dashboards once you get that kind of sorted out the way you want it to look. So in closing, what we looked at was the ease of working with Acumatica. So I gave you guys an introduction to the universal sort, which gave you the ability to look at more than just the menu item. You could also look at transactions, customer information, data from vendors, records, etc., the help, and the files. So you can search all those things all within one field or one sort um, search field. Also gave you a look at the quick filters, so we can filter our queries that are there and then just save those so you can get back to them quickly and easily later. We looked at the side panel so that from a grid view you can see your details that are there. We looked at the favorites that you can add, so we've got favorites throughout Acumatica to put it into a space that's more quickly and easily accessible for your specific needs. You can also relabel the tiles and menus, which again, with your business process, helps it flow a little bit better because now buttons are sequential or near each other instead of having to go to multiple form screens and areas. I also looked at the notes and files that you can add to the records. So things like on the sales order, on the purchase order, you can add these notes, files, or activities. We also looked at the column configurator, which allows you to add or remove columns easily. Previously sold items, we looked at that. It shows you what items have been sold to that customer. And we also looked at shopping for rates. So going into the rate shopping for the connected carriers. So looked at those. That brought back in the information for the label or the tracking information, as well as a label for you to print out and put on the box to ship. We also looked at the free mobile app, which is a quick and easy access to your data and really supports the anytime, anywhere, any device that you can get to your data quickly and easily. We also looked at the reports. I showed you the 3 different ways that you can look at your reports through 3 different report writers, and also how you can add those to your dashboard when you've got those nailed down. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to building the future of your business together.